there's a distance between us. It's getting hard to reach out. Haven't seen you in seasons, but all I hear is your voice. I know my limits, you can break me down, but I'll stay till the finish line. And I've been counting minutes for quite some time now, just to see you again. And I've been counting days to get away, to see you again, see you again. Been fighting ways to get away, to see you again, see you again. We got millions of reasons to let it all go. Hope we're not too broken. I know I'm not always strong, and I've been counting days to get away, to see you again, see you again. Been fighting ways to get away, to see you again, see you again.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, and I'm happy to have you guys here at the GCP for the Gin Sports Network. It's a great evening here, the 4th of April, 2023. And as you all know, the March Madness tournament has ended. UConn is your champions. We're going to dive into that here in a little bit. But first, we want to say welcome. Welcome to the GCP. It's been a minute. The last we talked, it was me and Taven, and spirits were high. We were talking about Michigan State. They were about to play Kansas State, playing in the Sweet 16, eyes on the Elite 8. And we can kind of forget about that to a certain extent. But I think we have to unpack a little bit about that game, even if we don't want to, even if we don't feel good about it, even if we feel sick to our stomachs even remembering it. But as we all know, that game went to OT, and we'll give you the Reader's Digest version because I think we all know what happened in that game. Went to OT, great game, great last-second layup there, by Tyson Walker, and it was a great performance by the Spartans. I was really impressed with what they presented to me, to the fans, to everybody watching. DK was getting activated afterwards. After the game on Twitter, and he posted a video to the masses that received a lot of recognition because people were wanting to hear from him, and he has high hopes on the future, as I do. and seeing what Tom Izzo can do to, rise from the ashes and bring teams, to fruition, even when they haven't had the most promise or didn't have the most promise going into the season or going into the final embers of the season. We can kind of look at, where they came from and where they started, and we can be very optimistic on the future, regardless of who stays, regardless of who goes. We can be optimistic on this season and seeing where we can go from here. The problem is, and I think I share this with a lot of Michigan State fans, is the fact that we can look at them season after season and we can see that there is strong potential there, especially come the month of March. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of hope for them to do well, but it all ends in sorrow, all ends very sour at some point. And there's still, we always say, oh, we can hold our heads up high. We can be happy about where they made their season, where they made it in their season. But they fall too short. I think they fall a little too short when they have that kind of hype behind them. You rally behind a team, whether they're the good teams that Tom Izzo has coached in recent years, or if they're, maybe subpar teams that might make a run, teams like that. They leave it all on the court, which I respect them for, and they will end up losing in OT to a great team in Kansas State. But and we can't hang our heads on that. But it seems a little too short, a little too late. I guess if I have any bone to pick, it's about that. It's really not worth getting mad about. But I like to consider myself a diehard fan. I'm an alumni. I take pride in the team. Been watching the team. Game of basketball has been a big part of my life since I was a little boy. So, yeah, it stings a little bit, and it still stings. It's going to sting for a long time. And every loss, even going back to the Tyler Hansborough UNC final against Michigan State back in the early 2000s, it's going to sting a little bit when you remember those things. So it's important to think about it, recollect, collect your thoughts, let them all spill out. But it's also important not to dwell on these types of things because they're in the past. We have no control over it anyway. We just want our team to play well and leave it on the court. And I think that's what they did. So we got to be happy about that. But we also got to look at the facts, look at where they're at, look at where they're headed, and see what needs to be changed. And I think the team and the organizers and everybody, they know what they're doing. They know what they're thinking, and hopefully they're making the right moves for the program. So that's all we can hope for. But in that same breath, a lot of these teams have similar mentalities, have similar feelings coming out of the season and out of this March Madness. We see teams like Purdue leave in round one. We see teams like Kansas leave pretty early. Kentucky, Gonzaga gets smoked by UConn, and they wound up winning it all. So I guess that's not a big deal, but there's teams that lost in areas where you didn't expect them to lose, and that's March Madness. So, newsflash, people, that's March Madness. So that's how the cookie crumbles. That's how we expect the cookie to crumble year after year, day after day, night after night. And, it was a hell of a March Madness. I've looking back at it, brackets shattered. I created over 20 brackets. All of them are shattered. I only had UConn in one of my Final Fours in one of my brackets. So if that tells you anything, yeah, it was a rough year. But I think that I'm amongst company and amongst friends when I say that, because everyone's brackets are shattered. Teams like Princeton go out and beat the Arizona Wildcats. What are you going to do? Half the bracket pools that I was in had Arizona winning it all. So, just goes to show, March Madness is March Madness, will always be March Madness, and that's why we got to commend the selection committee, because they did their best, they did what they had to do to give us another great bracket. Situating teams in certain positions in the regions is very difficult to do, and do it in a strategic way. You can kind of see, at least in years past, I've been able to see and sense, okay, the South region is stacked, it's going to be tough to get out of there alive. Okay, I see the Midwest region. Yeah, maybe that team can kind of wiggle their way through it and make it to an Elite Eight or a Final Four. This year, it was so all over the place. You really couldn't pick that team that was going to make it out scot-free, and that didn't happen with any team, as we saw. Other than UConn, really. Other than UConn, the UConn Huskies win it all. They win the Natty. And if you look back at their track record, even from the round one against Ionia, you can see that they beat every team all the way until the championship with a considerable lead up until the final buzzer. So let's just go through the scores. UConn, Ionia, 87-63 UConn. You go to the second round. UConn versus St. Mary's, 70-55. It's a 25-point differential there. You go to Sweet 16, 88-65. UConn beats Arkansas and the Razorbacks. Considerable margins there. You go to the UConn-Gonzaga game in the Elite Eight, 82-54. I mean, that one surprised everybody. I don't think anyone expected that to happen, expected Gonzaga to lose a game like that, especially after beating UCLA and seeing what, Timmy had to say. And we tweeted the video out, and they had a lot to play for, and they knew they had a lot of seniors on the team. They had to get the job done, and they just laid an egg against UConn. Didn't even give them a game. They basically were walking off the floor before the game was over. They were just in tears. There was still time on the clock, and they were in tears. Unfortunate for the Zags, but UConn just was a better team. And then in another surprise, after Miami had such a hell of a run, making it to a Final Four again. Or I don't know when the last time they made it to a Final Four, but Coach Larinaga, a lot to show for that team, the Hurricanes, and UConn beat them pretty considerably too. Actually, not by a crazy margin, similar to the championship. They win 72-59 against the Canes, and then the final game, obviously against San Diego State, they win 76-59. And San Diego State, the Aztecs, they made it a game. I got to give them credit. They made it a game going down the stretch, and that's what we wanted them to do. We wanted to see them make it a game. It was another situation of too little too late, letting the game slip away from you, letting the opposition get open shots, one around the perimeter and two in the inside. Inside the paint is that's the bread and butter usually for the Aztecs. They were shut down because the UConn bigs, and Sanogo is just he's a force to be reckoned with, and it is what it is. There's lots of players that can be attributed to that. Jordan Hawkins, Adama Sanogo, Andre Jackson Jr., and then Andrew Hurley, the son of Dan Hurley, as well. I mean, the names go on and on. They had a stacked team. They had a great team. They had great team chemistry, and that's all surrounded by this guy right here. Oh, right here, Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley. Now, this guy's a character. If you watch this guy coach, if you watch him breathe the game of basketball, he is a character. He loves the sport, and he loves his team. He loves the game of basketball. He loves being on the sidelines. He loves, emulating the game of basketball through his actions, through his mannerisms. And it's a fascinating thing to watch. So just to do a little history lesson, looking back last year, regular season game, Villanova, UConn. Coach Dan Hurley is going crazy on the sidelines for a call. I think it was a foul call or something that was called. And meanwhile, we're in the back nine of the first half, so we got like a couple minutes left. Dan Hurley's going crazy on the sidelines, crazy. Next thing you know, he is turning around after getting teched, and he is pumping up. He's raising the roof to his fan base. He's saying, "Get on your feet. Ladies and gentlemen, get on your feet. I need you on your feet right now." What happens? He gets a second tech, and he gets ejected. But just fascinating, man. I mean, this guy is a character. I love watching him coach, and he gives me Tom Izzo vibes when he's coaching. He's doing the mannerisms. You can see by the image here in the frame for those of you watching either now or later, and he is coaching. He is coaching with his hands. He's coaching with his body, and you know that he's coaching. You know that he cares about his team, cares about what he's doing, and it's an art. It's an art form to coach a basketball team at the college level in the Division I of the NCAA. It is a art form, and you have to do it your own way. You have to find your niche, find your groove, and do it correctly. It's not an easy thing to do successfully. Okay, Dan Hurley, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this guy. He's going places, and obviously he comes from a long bloodline of basketball coaches, etc. So it kind of speaks for itself in a large regard. But getting back to brass tacks, hats off to UConn, the Huskies. I don't think anybody really thought UConn was going to come up and rise to the occasion and succeed and win the Natty like they did. I think in the back of everyone's mind, we all knew it was a possibility. We knew they were a team that was notorious for being overhyped, similar to a Gonzaga, similar to the Coach K era of Duke, similar teams to that effect. Even Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans back in the Cassius era were pegged as being the best and being that team. And we know, based on history, we've seen it happen over and over. We know that tends to work against teams rather than for teams. Just like being ranked number one. You got Purdue as a perfect example. They had that drought there through the month of February. Lost a couple bad games. But you're number one, number two, especially you get seeded number one. Every team has your number. They want to beat you more than anyone else. So another display of that. But UConn situated pretty comfortably there as a 4 seed. Gives them a chance to say, okay, well, we can kind of meander our way through this region here, and throughout the March Madness tournament, they could meander their way through and make do with what they had. I mean, you look at the matchups: Ionia, St. Mary's, then you get to Arkansas, still a hell of a team, manhandled them, and then you look at probably the biggest margin of them all, against Gonzaga, and arguably the best team that they played throughout the whole tournament. You got closer margins against Miami, you got closer margins against Ionia, and it speaks for itself. They're just a commanding team. They like to get the lead and hold the lead, and that's something that's probably the hardest thing to do in the game of basketball, especially in March Madness, is to command the lead, keep the lead, move forward, and secure the lead. Michigan State, they'd struggle with that all year. There's teams across the board that have struggled with keeping a lead. You got to keep the lead, get the lead, keep the lead. First thing, before you can keep the lead, you got to get the lead. Can't get the lead, can't hold the lead. So I rest my case in that regard. Talking about FAU, San Diego State, Cinderella run for the Aztecs of San Diego State. I would love to see a bracket where they have San Diego State and the Aztecs in the final game, let alone the Final Four, let alone the Elite Eight. Hats off to the Aztecs of San Diego State. Big buzzer beater by Lamont Butler of the Aztecs, and that was a godsend mid-range jumper and to beat the Owls of FAU. Hats off to San Diego State, Lamont Butler. He rose to the occasion, got the job done. That's what you expect out of a big-time player. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time moments, and that's what you expect out of players like that. And you have to see it. You love to see it. It's March Madness-esque to see that happen. It is amazing to see that. So once everything's said and done, the dust settles, UConn Huskies, the UConn Huskies are your champions. So where do we go from here? UConn will be undoubtedly the number one ranked team in Division I college basketball going into the 2023-24 season. Can they hold that? Everyone's going to have their number because they're the Natty holders. That's what happened to Kansas. Everyone had their number. They faced some troubling times throughout the regular season and throughout March Madness, as we know. So there's somewhat of a bad omen to when you win the Natty. It's really hard to do it twice. It's really hard to do it again. Doesn't mean you're not going to have a good team, but everyone's going to have your number regardless of where you're ranked, regardless of where you stand in the AP polls. So something to think about if you are the UConn Huskies, if you are Dan Hurley, if you're anyone of the sort, anyone of the similar tier. Things to think about. Lots of things to think about when you're looking at the AP polls, looking at the next season. What does this mean for the GCP? Obviously, this means a lot. Who's entering the transfer portal? Who's going to the draft? Who's declaring for the draft? We're looking forward to college football now. I mean, we're constantly in a cyclical cycle where we're focusing on the future. We're focusing on what's ahead, what lies ahead, what is to come, and we're always looking at the future. the only thing that's somber for me, obviously, this is the Christmas season for me for college basketball. This is something we look forward to every year. And, regardless who's in the Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16, we love watching the game of basketball, especially college basketball. It's before players reach the next level and reach that true pinnacle. But this is where they have to grind. This is where they have to prove themselves. This is the proving grounds for what can they accomplish on the basketball court. What can they do in clutch moments? How can they perform under pressure? And a lot of these things, they come to light and they come to fruition. That's what recruiters and people in charge of the draft are looking at. So it's somber, yes, but I guess something that makes me even more sad is how quick it comes and goes. Comes and goes in cycles, comes and goes in waves, and it happens so fast. I feel like I want to be able to bask in the moment. And I think even the UCONN Huskies, they're going to be in the league. A lot of these players are going to be in the league, Adama Sanogo. A lot of these players, even players that got blasted and got knocked out of the March Madness tournament early, they're going to be thinking, damn, I wish I enjoyed that moment a little bit more when I was there. And I'm getting a little bit sad, but don't get caught up in the moment. Enjoy the moment. Get caught up in the moment, rather, and just enjoy it, because you never know when it's going to be your last time. If you're a senior, you want to be able to take advantage of that moment and bask in it, because for these guys and for us, we take advantage of what we can do and the times we have to live it. And even if we want to bask in the moment, we have to enjoy it while it's here. So we can't really acknowledge it for too long, saying, I really wish we could enjoy this longer. No, we enjoy it for while it's here. We move on to the next season. We go ahead, we grind, we conquer the next challenge. And that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. That is the game of life. You have to go out and conquer the next challenge. Nobody's going to wait for you. Nobody's going to say, hey, all right, take your time, bask in the moment. Bask in the moment, take your time. We'll be here waiting for you. No, time waits for no man. So we're focused on the future. We're focused on the transfer portal. We're focused on the coaching carousel. It happens in basketball too, ladies and gentlemen. Contrary to popular belief, it happens in basketball too, not just in football. So we're looking at that. We've already seen coaches make a run in the March Madness tournament and find new jobs, find new roles in the world of college basketball, and grow and elevate their careers and do what they have to do to exceed and to excel in their own right. So we're looking forward to all of it. We're very excited to move forward, push through the threshold. That's what we're doing. We're pushing through the threshold of the future, of the new age, the new era, and that's what we're super excited to do. So we're happy to have you along this journey with us and continue to pursue that and pursue your own destiny. That's what it's all about. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. I'll leave you guys with that. Make sure to get signed up for the Gin Sports Network Challenge 4 happening at Briar Ridge Golf Course in Montrose, Michigan. It's going to be a blast. We've already got a great docket, a great lineup of players, of teams looking great for this year's event. It's going to be a great event. Always looking to grow the event more and more every single year. So get out there, perform, take advantage, get some swings out. It's been a little bit rainy here, mid-Michigan. But get out there, get in the garage even, get some swings going, and get yourself registered. You and a partner get registered for the GSNC 4. Let's grow the two-man. Let's grow the two-man event. The two-man's never been stronger. And I'll take a minute to talk about that. So the two-man, okay, Jordan Pippen, Kobe and Shaq. I'll leave it at that. But the two-man has never been stronger than it is now. We've been led by great two-man operations, okay? Karl Malone, John Stockton, okay, just name a couple more. We're growing the two-man. It's better than it's ever been, and it's only getting better. So we're on the ascend right now. It's moving up. So grow the two-man. We're growing the two-man over here at GSN, and we're happy to do it. Be a part of the mission. Be a part of the journey. So get signed up. The link is attached in the link tree that is in the bottom of the description of this podcast. And get signed up. If you got any questions, get a hold of me, and I'd be happy to answer them, help you along the process. Go to our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, for all of our articles, all of our IG posts, and all updates, especially regarding the GSNC 4, the premier summer event, the two-man event. And everything's on there, guys. Everything's on the link tree. Get on there, get involved, get a hold of us. Find us on Twitter, find us on social media. We're going to be happy to see you guys on there. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for tuning into the GCP. I'm your host, as always, John J. II. Have a great night.